Hello and welcome to MSL's Live. Today we are going to talk about DevOps again. I know there are so many articles, webcasts, webinars about DevOps, Azure DevOps and GitHub, and there are lots of similar stuff. But today my guest is Matteo Emili, and he will clear up this confusion for us. Matteo, welcome.
Hello, Matt. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining. It's a pleasure being here, actually, and this is a topic that came up several times over the past few months, so I'm very happy to be here and clear the air about that.
Okay, thank you. We are very excited to having you here. Can you tell me about yourself, your current role, or your community activities, if any?
Yeah, I work at Avanade UK in Ireland as a manager for software engineering. I've been doing that for almost 2 years now. I've also been a long-standing Microsoft MVP for 10 years now. Visual Studio Team System first, then Visual Studio ALM, and now Azure DevOps. And I've been around this space for a long time, so I've seen the evolution of several platforms and Azure DevOps itself to become what it is today.
I want to start with a classic question. What is DevOps and what is Azure DevOps, and what can we say about GitHub?
So DevOps on its own is a cultural approach. First and foremost, it's about culture. So it is something that you can do to a certain degree and to different degrees as well. And it all goes around the concept of doing things differently in a more streamlined way, in a more agile, if you like, sort of way. And it's all about people, processes, and tools. So you can throw as much technology as you like to the problem, but if you don't use the right approach for the right people, then you're not going to go anywhere. You don't have a DevOps Enterprise Edition that you buy and install on your servers, basically. So yeah, it's all about culture. It's all about the approach that you take to problems and the way that you tackle those issues to be to solve them quicker, in a quicker way and in a better way. So focusing on quality. Azure DevOps has been the long-standing Microsoft platform for ALM first and DevOps and continuous delivery then. And it's been evolving for more than 10 years, I'd say around 15 years to this day, from the Visual Studio Team System days, Team Foundation Server, and then VSTS, and now Azure DevOps. GitHub, on the other side, is a different platform that's designed more around social development, social coding, and the social experience of developers. But at the same time, it can do many of the things that Azure DevOps does. It's been a long journey for GitHub as well, because it's been acquired by Microsoft a couple of years ago, and now they have a fair amount of overlap, and that's why we have this session to clarify where do they overlap, what are their strengths, and how you want to get the best out of them.
Okay, thank you. So let's clear up this confusion, and this is your show now.
Okay, thank you very much, Matt. So first of all, for everyone, if you have a question, I'm keeping my Q&A on the right-hand screen. So if you have a question you want to ask mid-session, feel free to ask that, no problem whatsoever. And this session is actually not a scripted session. So I'm going to show you a couple of examples, but then my idea is to clear up the confusion. So get as many questions as possible and then sort out those questions. Again, I work at Avanade UK. I'm a Microsoft MVP. You can find my blog and my Twitter account here. Feel free to call me or pass them me as much as you like on these socials. I'm very happy to get questions anytime. So let me share my screen, actually, because the screen sharing dropped. So now you should actually be able to see my screen. And yeah, again, my blog and my Twitter account over here. Like I said, Microsoft acquired GitHub in June 2018. I remember that day very well because I was on holiday and I was scrolling my phone poolside, and I got these emails saying Microsoft acquired GitHub. Oh, okay, fine. So the acquisition completed in October 2018. We're almost 2 years down the line, and I get questions like these. So what should I choose? Should I go one way? Should I go the other way? Or I already have investments in GitHub. Shall I try to do more with GitHub? Shall I do other things with Azure DevOps? Or I'm already on Azure DevOps. What should I do? Should I move? Long story short, you should do what fits the most for your organization, because Azure DevOps is not going away, and GitHub is only going to grow. So you should try to find out what's the best thing that fits your organization and how you can achieve the most by leveraging either one, the other, or both. Azure DevOps has got certain strengths. Okay, so you have Azure boards, for example. That's an excellent visual way of visualizing activities and knowing how all the various activities within a project, how they're broke down, how they're linked together. If you want to have a visual roll-up sort of thing, it's very visual and it's very immediate for everyone. And it's also got a very nice integration with Excel, which is second to none in my opinion, because it allows you to do bulk transformations and those kind of things that you can only do with Excel rather than do them manually. Azure Pipelines is extremely good, is an extremely good orchestrator, and I think as of today, it shows that you can not only do build, obviously, build is fairly trivial to do, but you can also have an excellent continuous delivery orchestrator to do proper deployments the right way with all the right levels of approvals, for example, rather than integration with other systems. It's very immediate to use and extremely powerful. You also have other things like Azure Artifacts, which I'm a big fan of, because they have universal artifacts, meaning that you can create an artifact, you can chuck in everything you like in these artifacts, and then it can be used like a nugget package but containing something else. So that's in my opinion something that's extremely valuable. You also have a single pane of glass experience all across the board, so you can go from Azure boards to the code to Azure pipelines, all within the same system. So that's very simple and very immediate to use for anyone. On the other side, on GitHub, it's not like GitHub doesn't have these strengths. It does, actually, and we will see them in a moment. But GitHub's top strengths are the developer experience. It's the fact that GitHub is the de facto open source standard for anyone, and the ease of use for GitHub in creating a repository and starting a collaboration effort with someone else, or even just a solo coding experience, is extremely valuable. And that's, in my opinion, the social side of GitHub. That's where it's really at the top. Okay, so GitHub is extremely strong when it comes to the social experience of code. Now, with the latest developments, you also have a machine learning engine behind the scenes that's going to do vulnerability scanning or credential. It's going to scan for credentials. That's another thing where GitHub is extremely strong, because it's baked into the platform and it is seamless. You just don't see that there is a machine learning model looking for credential and checking that you're not leaking secrets in your code. So you can do the same with Azure DevOps, but you need to set up something that does it for you. In GitHub, you get it integrated within the platform itself. So the case here is that you can and you should integrate both of them, because at the end of the day, you want to get what fits your workflow and what fits your company, if you like, the most. So you can create your own platform and you can create it tailored to your needs. A couple of examples that we will see now how and why, but the reasons are extremely varied. Okay, so you can have ease of use. You might want to have the developers using what they're familiar with, so GitHub, and then potentially expanding visibility on project management with a different tool that's, it's not a developer-centric tool. Or you might want to take advantage of Azure Pipelines for continuous deployment. You might want to use Azure Artifacts for universal packages. You might want to integrate, I don't know, ServiceNow, and with ServiceNow, you already have some development that you already did to do that, and you already do that with Azure DevOps, so you might want to reuse that, so you can do that. That is the idea, that really you can have both platforms, you can get the most out of both of them. A couple of examples, like I said, Azure Actions and Azure Pipelines is when you want to separate continuous integration and continuous delivery. So let's say that you have your code on GitHub, and this code will be built using GitHub's orchestrator, GitHub Actions. But then you might want to do deployments, and you might want to do deployments by using Azure Pipelines because you already have the definitions, for example, or because you want to use something that's specific for the existing infrastructure that you've got. So if you want to have the integration with the with Azure and you want to have a simplified experience with the service connections, then you can do that, and you can leverage Azure pipelines for that, and you're effectively separating CI and CD. But using them together is extremely simple. Or again, GitHub issues and Azure boards. So if you want to have different levels and granularity of views for different audiences and different sets of people, then you can easily do that. And you can do that by using GitHub Actions. GitHub Actions is effectively the underlying foundation for all of our automation efforts. Okay, so you don't want to reinvent the wheel. You want to use something that's pervasive and that goes along everything within the platform. So I'm literally done with the slides, and I'm going to crack on with a couple of demos before we delve into the actual questions. This is a simple web application. Okay, this is on GitHub. It's on a GitHub organization. I don't care about the code. Okay, it could be any code. It could be anything really. I don't particularly care. What I'm interested in is the workflows that GitHub can do and the ways that you can integrate GitHub Actions with other systems. So I mentioned a couple of examples. I mentioned GitHub Actions and Azure Pipelines, and I mentioned Azure Boards and GitHub Issues. The way you do them is by creating workflows. So you can integrate multiple systems, or you can do literally anything between your systems by using GitHub workflows. It's like an orchestrator that spans across the whole platform on GitHub, and it doesn't just do CI, CD, build and deploy like Azure platform, but it can do so much more. So taking, for example, the CI and CD story. If I open up this workflow over here, actually, that's fine. So this workflow, let me zoom in a little bit. What this workflow is going to do is going to run at every push. So every time there is a push on a certain repository, this is going to run. The job is going to run on a container that runs on Ubuntu latest. As of here, nothing fancy. It's going to use GitHub Actions checkout. So it's going to check out the code. It's going to set up .NET Core with a simple pre-baked action on a certain version of .NET Core. It's going to run .NET Build and .NET Publish. Up to here, this is a fairly standard .NET Core build. It doesn't do anything special. It doesn't do anything fancy. And that is by design, because we don't need to do anything fancy. This is a standard .NET Core application. We want to build it the standard way. What happens next is that we need to integrate with Azure DevOps. And the way you can do it is by logging in with the Azure action, and it's going to use some secrets that are for Azure. And then you could do anything really on Azure. Okay, you could do anything here. As you can see, I already started doing a bit of infrastructure deployment, and that was because I wanted to try my my Azure CI/CD from GitHub. Then I realized that I don't really need this, because I already have Azure pipelines that does it for me on multiple environments. So this action over here is effectively redundant. I don't need that. But what I need is a way of integrating with Azure DevOps, and that's where the Azure DevOps PAT comes into play. Okay, this is stored as a secret. So if I go into my settings area and I go into the secrets menu, I won't be able to see anything over here. Okay, because this is a secret. I can only update it, but I can't see it. And that is stored securely within GitHub. That's the way that I'm doing it. Once I go, let's go quickly back to the code. Once I use that, I can use this as an environment variable so that it can be reused across multiple actions that might be doing different things across with GitHub. Okay, so I might use these Azure CLI task over here, but then I might do something else with the Azure DevOps CLI, and I might want to do, I don't know, I might want to synchronize a different issue to a work item in Azure DevOps. I could do it from the same action here. I'm not going to do it just because I want to keep them separate. But again, once you have them as an environment variable, then you can use them all across your scripts. And then I'm going to run 3 lines of CLI script. Okay. First thing I'm going to do is to use the Azure CLI and add the extension for Azure DevOps. That's what I need to do in order to operate and integrate with Azure DevOps. The approach that GitHub has got is that GitHub Actions in particular, they are cloud agnostic. Okay, so you will go for a CLI. It could be the Azure CLI, it could be AWS CLI, it could be PowerShell, Bash, whatever. Okay, you don't have the same level of tight integration that you have with Azure DevOps, and that is by design. It is by choice, because you can do everything with the same platform just by reusing potentially existing scripts. So you install the extension.
Matthew, can you please zoom in?
Some more? Yes. That should be good enough, right? So once we are in with that, what's going to do is that I'm going to log in on the organization, and this secret is not going to be shown, in the sense that the echo is just there. It was just there for debugging purposes. You don't really need that. And it's going to just pull out a string, but that doesn't show the actual secret. Then I will be logging in into my Azure DevOps organization. That's dev.azure.com/Acme Corporation. And that, again, this is something that you would do regardless, because you need to authenticate against the service. Once there, what I want to do is to publish a universal package. Like I said, I'm a big fan of universal packages. So what I'm going to do is to run az artifacts universal publish, targeting the Azure DevOps organization that I'm interested in, the project that I'm interested in. The scope of a feed is going to be for a project scope feed. The feed is just named feed, and that's just the name I gave it to it. I'm going to use the name web app simply because this is the name of my repository. So just for consistency, really, and just because I'm passing everything in line. And then the version, for the version, given that this is a simple demo, I just wanted something that was going to iteratively increment. I'm going to use the GitHub run number. So this is going to be a number that's going to be always different, obviously, because there's always going to be a new run. You never get the same version. And then I just push a description and the path that I'm interested in. In this case, the web app path, which is where I was going to publish my .NET Publish artifact. Once I do that, then I push my artifact over there, and I start my Azure pipelines build or release. In this case, it's going to be just a simple pipeline that does release. So I'm going to use that. I'm going to pass it through with a specific action. You see that it's no longer the CLI, but it's Azure /pipelines. And this Azure pipeline action is the one that just needs, it just needs the project URL, so organization and project name, the name of a pipeline, and a PAT, a secret that I'm going to pass through. That's all I'm going to do. Okay. So every time I run it, and I ran it last, what was it? Well, 18 days ago. So potentially, 18 days ago. So that's last time I ran it, but it could have been anytime, anywhere, especially because I made a simple change to it. So that's the latest change. But as you can see, I ran that 26 minutes ago because I pushed a change for another reason. And this ran 26 minutes ago successfully in 2 minutes and whatever. Okay. So what it did here, it did everything that that this pipeline was defined to do, and then it just called the pipeline. Let me use this. So this created a connection, and then it triggered the connection. It triggered the pipeline, and that was it. Then I'm redirected in the log to my pipeline. Let's take a look at this pipeline. This is the pipeline that ran today at 5 minutes to 5. It's a very simple pipeline. It doesn't do anything fancy. What it does is, first of all, it runs automatically because there is nothing attached to it. But also, I believe, very interestingly, it's going to pick up, I'll show you what it does. It's going to pick up a universal package. This universal package, as you can see, it's just good. So you can't really, I mean, it's not like hard coded that. But if I go into the settings, I can go and take a look. And the feed actually returns feed. The view is going to be the local one. And the package is going to be a web app package. Now, I'm interested in the latest version here, so there is a nice star. Otherwise, I could have specified any version. All right. In the artifacts, I get my my artifact created from GitHub. So as soon as it loads, should be able to see that. There it is. Okay, so web app version 0.023 updated 26 minutes ago, and I can get in and look at it, but it's been done at 16:54:58, so 26 minutes ago. This is from my user account, and again, this comes from this pipeline over here. That's exactly it. Okay, so it's done in a completely automated fashion. I don't have to do anything to this. It just runs, and it's just going to communicate with the two between the two systems. So you should not imagine this as a CI build that then calls a CD pipeline someplace else. This is just an automation. Your automation over here is going to connect a CI build, so the portion that runs up to here. Okay. This is my CI build that does build and publish. Then what this does is publishing an artifact to a third-party repository and then running another pipeline. This is what it is. Okay, so it's not like I said decoupling CI and CD, and that's true. But what's not true is that this is just a CI that then calls a CD pipeline someplace else. This is a layer of automation that runs with GitHub Actions, and it makes several integrations that were very hard work before possible in an easy way. Now, what I mentioned before is that subscription login was going to show something, and as you can see, this is what's going to show. Okay, it's going to show some strings, and it's going to show the login successful. It's not going to show the secret. The reason why I had to run that is because I need to make sure that the Azure CLI is authenticated. Because what I'm going to do when I publish my package, I'm going to use AZ. I don't even remember that on the fly. I can pick it up quickly now. So it's going to run AZ extension add. So it's not just AZ artifacts. In order to run AZ extension add, I need to be authenticated. So that's the reason why I passed that. Potentially could work around it, not a problem, but it was there in the first place. It's not going to cause any problem anyway, okay? But that's the way you have this authentication layer in between, and you have this this automation layer in between that connects GitHub to something else, and in this specific case, Azure DevOps. Now, if I wanted to edit that, and I want to show how's the editing experience, I could do it from Visual Studio Code, straightforward, no problem. But over here, I also have something that's similar to the Azure Pipelines experience. So Azure Pipelines, you know that very well, that if you edit a pipeline, even if it's a YAML pipeline, you get a task assistant. So I can run, let's say, bash, and I have a bash command, and I have something that I can configure and run visually. This is something similar, but in the GitHub world. Okay, so let me just make it slightly smaller. If I want to add something over here, let's say, okay, I might want to add another action. I might want to do something else. Okay, I might want to download a build artifact from something else. I can pick this up, I can copy that, and paste it wherever I want. Okay, then it needs to be formatted, obviously, because this is YAML, so YAML obviously is subject to formatting, but it's not the end of the road. Okay, it's a simple way of doing this. Oh yeah, value cannot be null, obviously, but it's a similar experience. It's not a one-to-one match, but at least you don't have to write everything from scratch. And that's obviously going to help you, because if you go back to it and you search, let's say, Azure DevOps, there is something over here that I'm going to use in a second. And you might come across that by mistake, by chance. Or if you search for Azure Pipeline, then you get the official action. If you just search for Azure, you get Azure Login, Azure Web App, and if you look at Azure Web App, you can see that it's tailored for Azure Web Apps. If you go to over here, you can deploy to a Kubernetes cluster, and you have an action that's tailored for this specific operation. You can search for literally everything. I mean, if you look for AWS, you have a number of things that are published by AWS directly. Okay, so it's not like only Azure has got this certified logo, and you can't do it with anything else. It's going to be for AWS, it's going to be for anything. This is for the community, and it's designed by the community for the community. So in the next example, and this is again something that I really like, if I go over here and I look at the other workflow that I want to show you, which is the one to integrate issues with Azure DevOps work items. This issue could have been an official issue. Okay, so, sorry, this action could have been an official action. It isn't. It's been developed by Dan Hellem. Dan Hellem is a product manager at GitHub, and this is his own effort in creating an action. So if you go and look at it, you search for Azure boards. This is it. I can have a look at the GitHub listing in the marketplace, and as you can see, the contributor is Dan Hellem, product manager at GitHub. Okay, so that's where the strength of the marketplace comes through, because obviously it's built by developers or by teams or by organizations for other developers. This means that there is a continuous, don't want to say recycling, but there is a continuous sharing of information, of experience, and of code that goes all across the board. Now, this action over here, I believe it's very powerful because it's very simple. As you can see, just a single step that runs every time an issue in GitHub has one of these states or transitions to one of these states. This means that this is not CI, it's not even CD or anything. This is just an automation that runs, and whenever an issue is in one of these states, then it's going to run. And what it's going to do is going to go to my project, Pipelines as Code again, in my Azure DevOps organization, and it's going to create a bug mapped to these states and everything in between just by running an update on a GitHub issue. So if I'm going to create this, let's say I'm going to create a new one, minor issue. Once I click save over there, a GitHub action starts. So this is something that's there, and it's looking for every change to issues in GitHub. That's extremely powerful if you think about that, because you can potentially connect this to pull requests, to anything else. This being completed, fine, straightforward. If you want to look at what it does, odd. Okay. What this thing does is just running the action. You can see that the tokens are secrets, so no credential leaks, nothing at all. And it just runs, it says it did not find any work item, so it's going to create a new one because this is a new one. And the work item was created with number 1527. If I go over here, Pipelines as Code, then I will be able to see that the minor issue was created. And it's also interesting because we will have a look at the source code in a second, but this is also a very good example in how to interact and operate with Azure DevOps. So I see there is a question, is GitHub issues supported by Microsoft? Yes, absolutely. Why not? It's there, you can use them, and you can integrate them. In this specific example, what I'm doing is simulating a development team that wants to have all of their project management in Azure DevOps, but they want to have an open source storefront. So they will publish the source and potentially receive issues from the community. So those issues that come directly from the community, from the open source adopters or whoever, they're going to be directly synchronized with their backlog. And that's the use case that's going to solve this. It could be something else. It could be like having the developers having all of their user stories in GitHub issues, and then having upper levels of project management, handling epics, roadmaps, and whatever into Azure DevOps. That's another viable scenario. Absolutely. So this is just about automating everything that's got to do with project management. In this case, issues in GitHub and work items in Azure boards. Another question is, can I use GitLab with Azure DevOps? Absolutely. So I'll deviate a little bit, but if you create your own service connection, okay, which is over here. If you create a service connection, you either have, now you don't have a GitLab connection, even if there is something, if I'm not wrong, on the marketplace, because I'm fairly sure another MVP, Utkarsh Shigihalli, created an integration for GitLab. So that might be it. But in worst case, you can use another Git. So if you use another Git, you point at the repository URL, you can authenticate, and then you're done. Straightforward. So I'm fairly sure that there is some sort of integration. And actually, let's take a look. GitLab integration. Yes, there you go. I remember correctly. Utkarsh created this integration for GitLab. So you get the service connection experience and you get an easier way, if you like, of integrating them between the two. It's just based on tokens. And as you can see, then you can reuse the artifact directly from GitLab. But even if you didn't have that, you could have done it with the service connection, with the generic service connection like that. Okay. So I was saying the source code of this thing is very, very interesting, because if we get in there and we take a look at what this thing does, issue to work items, if I'm not wrong. Yes. So if we look at the source code, it's interesting because this interacts with Azure DevOps. Okay, so there are a number, let me remember where this is, okay, to be completely fair with you. Oh, it's here. It was just in front of me. So this is what the issue looks like. The action looks like on the marketplace. We don't particularly care about that. That's it. So this JavaScript file contains the whole action. And it's interesting because it's using a Node API that's out there. And then looking below, you can see that, first of all, it can check whether it finds an existing work item, so it can create a new one. But what I find interesting is that then you have this function over here that creates a work item by an API call, and you can see everything that you can pass through to this work item. So the way that the name of the work item is structured, for example, you have the title of the issue in GitHub, and then you have GitHub issue number 4 or number whatever that is. This comes from here. Let me close this. Sorry. Okay. So this comes from here. So vm.title, it's the title of the GitHub issue, then plus space GitHub issue number and the issue number of the specific item. Then the description, you have the body. So if I were to, let's do it. If I were to change this, actually, let's create a new one. So we see that from Morino. So these are the description, and then there is a tag, and by default, it creates a GitHub issue tag and the repository name from where the issue is connected to. So again, web app comes from the repository name on GitHub. This is a GitHub issue. And then there is a GitHub issue link over here, and that again comes from this specific piece of code. Okay, so you have a relations here. There's a hyperlink with the URL. You have this, you have direct hyperlinks in the discussion. And also, potentially, if you're writing code against that, by using, see that you have this integration here, by using in your commits sharp AB number, then you will get integration in your commit messages. So that's extremely powerful. And this is in my description. Should have pulled it. Oh, there it is. This is a trivial issue. It's in the description, just hasn't refreshed for whatever. It hasn't refreshed for whatever reason. But yeah, it is in the description here. AB number 1528. So this is how they are integrated even at commit level, at the commit message level. And this is extremely interesting because you have transparency between the two systems. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel and create something completely new, completely from scratch. You just have this integration layer. You have these automations that you can leverage. Just do it. Simple, straightforward. Are these extensions secure to use? Why shouldn't they be? You get access to the source code, so you can see what they do. If they use a secret, the secret is stored in GitHub. So it's not stored in an action, but it's stored in the actual GitHub platform. It is encrypted, and you never see that anyway, because it is a secret, so it's handled as such. So yes, they are absolutely secure to use, especially because you can see what they do. You can see what they do, and if you look at the code and you realize that they're doing something that you're not comfortable with, you can just not using them. It's fairly simple. We are also asked if there's going to be a recording for on-demand watching later, and that's a question that Mert can answer for sure. Is there any other question? I'm very keen on questions for this session. No more questions? All clear? Okay, so we can delve a little bit more into the GitHub side, perhaps, given that we still have 20-odd minutes. If you think about it, GitHub, now it's mainly about code, right? But you also have something else, and that's why the integration between different systems is important. So thinking about that, I made an example before, which is the development team, the actual developers, having their backlog in GitHub in a form of issues, and then having a mapping between those user stories and epics and features above in the different systems. Brilliant, right? You need to manage this somehow, because you can't just have a list of issues over here. You need to manage them, and even if you use boards, physical boards, right? You need to have a degree of integration with this. So what you can do is to use GitHub Projects. GitHub Projects is a lightweight project management tool that you can use anytime. When you create a project, you create a project board. It's nothing more than that. The board has got templates, but all the templates are lean, except for the last one, that's bug triage, obviously. And even then, you can think about it, it's lean. But you have basic Kanban, automated Kanban, and automated Kanban with reviews. So this works very well, but you need to use lean, because otherwise it might get a little difficult if you do full-blown project management with it. But at the same time, even if you do Scrum, it's not difficult because you have to do in progress and done. So you can map those columns to your Scrum states. That's absolutely fine. Okay. And if you have an automated Kanban, potentially with reviews, which is what I'm going to select here, you realize that there should be another reasons, but whenever you do something within your project, there's going to be some automation. Okay, so as you can see, manage automations on columns. In your columns, you can say, okay, whenever there is something, then put it into one of these columns. In this case, in the to-do column, you want to put everything that's newly added or potentially reopened. so it goes back at the back of the queue. Or potentially when it's in progress, you can say, okay, move stuff in progress when things are reopened or newly added if they are pull requests, or if they're reopened, or if they've been approved, and so on. So you have those automations that you don't see, but they are extremely powerful. And the way you can do that, now let me take out these notes over here. They're nice, but they're cluttering a little bit with the screen state. If you create a new note, it can be your note, and this is full markdown, okay? So bold text here, then should be italic, regular text, and then you should have your list, if memory serves me well. Okay, you see, simple, straightforward, nothing special. But this is just a note. This is not a full-blown user story. What you can do is to add cards, and cards can come from the repository to which the board is linked to. So you might want to have all of the issues, not in done state, but yeah, that's because, sorry about it. Okay. You might want to have all of this. Doing it manually might be a chore, so you can create a GitHub action that, well, GitHub workflow that synchronizes them automatically every time over here. That's one thing you can do. And then if you start doing this, so this, okay, we can archive this, we no longer need that. But if you have this sort of setup, this is a lightweight project management tool that you can leverage. So it's got a board, it's got integration with issues, nothing wrong with it. It works absolutely fine. And it is what most teams need. Then, if you want, let's say that this is done and stuff, and then if you want to link this to stuff that's in Azure DevOps, and that's because potentially people using Azure DevOps might like the list of work items, for example, or they might like the fact that they have more fields, or they can do more things with it. Like you have area iteration, you have repro steps for bugs, you have all sorts of things, and you can integrate with releases and whatnot. Then fine. If they like the board, let's take a look at the board in Azure DevOps. They might like it. Absolutely fine. Nothing wrong with it. And as you can see, I already played with it because I have a user story that's been linked to a GitHub issue. So fine, not a problem with that. You can separate the two, and you can give to the user that likes one the most the tool that they like. As simple as that. There is a question, can I use Azure DevOps on-prem? Yes, it's called Azure DevOps Server. So like Team Foundation Server was the on-premise version, and the STS or Visual Studio Online or whatever other name it had in the past 10 years, you have an on-prem version, which is Azure DevOps Server. And you can do the same things to a degree because the APIs are common. Obviously, if you have an Azure DevOps on-prem, you're not going to get the same level of integration, the same level of experience, simply because the GitHub actions are designed around Azure DevOps services, so the cloud-hosted version. However, there are some things that you can do because the APIs are similar. So playing a little bit with them can give to a good result. Any other question? If there are no more questions, I think we've lost Mert here. So if you have any question on Azure DevOps on GitHub, feel free to ask them. I'm very happy to spend time answering them. Oh, there is one. Let me publish this. Actually, let me put this full screen. It's very quick. So what do you think it would be the long-term plan for Azure DevOps, considering that it's overlapping more and more with GitHub? Well, I don't work at Microsoft, so I don't know what's the long-term plan. What I can say is that Azure DevOps is a very mature platform that does certain things very well. And I don't think it's going to go anywhere for the simple reason that the Windows organization, if memory serves me well, moved to Azure DevOps because of Git LFS or whatever that was called. Git LFS is a file system that's specifically designed for very large Git repositories. And I don't think it's compatible with GitHub today. So that's one good enough reason why Azure DevOps is not going to go anywhere. To be fair with you, there is a solid roadmap for Q2. I just saw that on Twitter a couple of days ago. So I have no doubts about Azure DevOps, and it's there. It works very well. I don't see why it should be a problem. Again, it's a question that I get very often, and I always answer this. I always give the same answer. Choose whatever you like the most, and choose whatever you feel is more appropriate to your situation. Any more questions? Okay, I think we can wrap this up then. Thank you very much for joining. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to have a chat with you today, and enjoy the rest of your day.